Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Before we get into this video, if you could just hit that big red button down below. Thank you so much for hitting 8K. This is This is like a before it's happened, but we're 2 subscribers away at time of recording, which is yesterday as you're seeing it. So I'm assuming that video I uploaded yesterday got me over the line. So if it did, thank you so much for hitting 8K and on to the next goal, which is 10,000 subscribers. Today's video though is part 2 of our Glen Kamara replacement scout report. Now that's a mouthful, but we've been looking over the last day or so at people who could replace Glen Kamara. Yesterday we looked at Gabriel Sara, which is the expensive option, so if you want to, go and have a watch of that video after you've seen this one. But today we're going to talk about the free option. Now the free option for me is Stuart Armstrong. Now Stuart Armstrong, Scottish international, obviously is known for his time at Southampton, a rival of ours last season, and of course beat us in the playoff final to go up to the Premier League. He is 32 years old, but he's available on a free and had some of the best statistics in the Championship all last season, and I believe that he's the type of player who you could get on a 1 or 2 year deal and really help you to get across the line to get back to the Premier League. Last season, let's have a little look at his statistics. Last season, he scored 5 and assisted 7 from midfield. Box-to-box midfielder. He can also play on the right-hand side as well. He gets you some goals, he gets you some assists. Whilst he's not as glamorous as a Brazilian like Gabriel Sara, I think he's also someone who would be quite a shrewd investment, because obviously you'd only have to pay his wages. You give him a 1 or 2 year deal, and you allow him to get back to the Premier League. And if he doesn't get back to the Premier League, then you let him go. But I think whilst he has had some interest from Premier League clubs, this is what I talked about in yesterday's video, there is a certain appeal to the project that's going on at Leeds, and we've seen that with Joe Rodon coming here, and there may be some players who might choose a move to Leeds over a lower level Premier League move where they're not going to get as much game time. But while Stuart Armstrong is 32, he's at the latter stages of his career, he is experienced, and that is something that we haven't got a great amount of. We had one of the joint youngest squads in the whole Championship last season, and somebody like Stuart Armstrong, who knows what it is to be promoted back to the Premier League, and he knows what it is to play Premier League football regularly as well, could be a really good signing for somebody like Leeds, because it's that kind of signing where you go, is that going to work? And then it comes good, and I really believe that it would. So whilst he has had some interest from other Premier League clubs, it's important to note that he's available on a free, so he can basically choose what he wants to do. There's no clubs waiting to take more money or less money from him, if you get what I mean. So let's have a little look into his statistics then, Stuart Armstrong, and then we'll go on to a bit of the eye test. Now, Stuart Armstrong last season, non-penalty goals for a midfielder, 0.16, which puts him in the 86th percentile, and he took a lot of shots as well, 2.13 per 90, which puts him in the 93rd percentile. So he's a midfielder who you can tell just by those 2 statistics, he gets forward, he likes to make those third man runs into the box beyond the striker and go and try and finish things off, and that's something that's important to have in a midfielder, because say that we've got somebody like Patrick Bamford up front or even Joel Peru, a lot of the time you'll see them on the edge of the box when somebody like Dan James has gone to the byline and cut the ball back, and you go, well, there's nobody there because they haven't made a run into the box. But when you have midfielders like Stuart Armstrong that can go beyond a defender, I mean, ironically, a good example of this is against Southampton in the final day of the season, not in the playoffs, but in the final day of the season, when Will Smallbone ran past all of the strikers and ran into the box and slotted the ball in the back of the net past Meslier. He was playing in that role that Stuart Armstrong plays. So you can see where that comes in of like, okay, the striker's drawn defenders to him on the edge of the box. So then the defenders are so worried about what Bamford or what Peru or what Mateo Joseph is doing. Mateo Joseph maybe being a little bit different of a striker. They're so focused on that striker that they can't track that runner of somebody running into the box as a third man run to try and get on the end of things. And I think that's something that Stuart Armstrong would do really well. Also got a decent amount of assists. He's in the 94th percentile for that, 0.22 per 90. Shot creating actions. Now, we talked about this yesterday. A pass that leads to a pass that leads to a shot, basically. And he is 4.33 per 90, which puts him in the 94th percentile. So the top 6% across loads of leagues compared over the amount of minutes that he played. So it's a really good statistic to have. Yes, he's 32, but that's not that old, really, in terms of a footballer. That's not that old. He can still do a very good job for Leeds. He attempts a lot of passes, 62.39, 87th percentile. Progressive passes and progressive carries are really, really excellent. 8.46 and 3.66 puts him in the 96th and 98th percentile, respectively. It just means that he's so positive. He wants to go forward. He wants to get in the box. He wants to attack things, and that bears out in the other statistics, like his touches in the attacking penalty area. 4.29 per 90. It puts him in the 99th percentile, so he's in the top 1%. This is exactly what I'm talking about with him getting beyond the striker, getting into the box and trying to finish things off, or at least cut the ball back across, get assists. It bears out in the statistics that that's the type of player he is, and I think in the Championship, that's invaluable. If you're really trying to break a team down, and Leeds have been struggling over the last year to do this, somebody like that who can go in, break the lines, and it causes disarray in the box. If there's a ball played through whilst the defenders are all positioned on the edge of the box and the ball gets played over the top or through the lines for Armstrong to get on the end of in the box, the defence has to break their defensive shape. They have to go back into their box, and that's when you get issues in terms of defensive errors. You get that corridor of uncertainty, which we love on this channel, where you can cut the ball back across and there's mistakes to be made by defenders in there. So I think Stuart Armstrong would be a fantastic signing for Leeds on a free. Like I said, he has got potential Premier League moves lined up. Now that is just rumour, but I think this one's more realistic than Gabriel Sara. I think we could definitely do this one. I think, honestly, it's the kind of move that 49ers might want to make. I know on the Square Ball podcast, Dan Moylan was talking about how he thought that the 49ers potentially were trying to be as shrewd as possible in getting Leeds promoted without having to spend an extreme amount of money or without having to buy players that you're just going to have to sell again when you get back to the Premier League. So I think somebody like Stuart Armstrong fits into those categories nicely because he's free, so you sign him on a 1 or a 2 year deal, and then he can leave if he wants to after that amount of time, and you haven't got him on the books forever. So for me, I think it's a very, very interesting proposition, Stuart Armstrong. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, the last thing about his statistics, is progressive passes recovered. 7.6 per 90, which is in the 98th percentile. So he's part of that high press, basically. He's able to go and win the ball back off opposition midfielders and defenders. And when you're playing a mid-block, somebody like that who can cut off passing lanes skillfully and at the right time can be really, really good for your pressing situation, because we know that people like Joel Peru aren't very good at pressing, so you get somebody like Stuart Armstrong to help out in that aspect. He's obviously very fit in terms of his stamina and things like that, because he's still doing it at 32. When you look at players like even Liam Cooper, look, Liam Cooper's not unfit or anything like that in terms of his stamina and stuff, but you can tell he's a little bit older, and he's actually younger than Stuart Armstrong. So the fact that Stuart Armstrong is still doing this is paramount to his fitness, and so I think he'd be a great signing for Leeds. That has been part 2 of this video series, talking about who could possibly replace Glen Kamara. Now look out on the channel tomorrow at 12 for another one. We've got the cheap option, where it does involve spending a few quid, but nowhere near as much as Gabriel Sara, and a little bit more than the free Stuart Armstrong. So look out for that. That will be up that might be up unless there is any breaking transfer news. If we sign a player or something, that's the only reason why it would get postponed. But look out for it on the channel tomorrow. Make sure you hit that big red button. Thanks for watching Leeds Lately though, and I'll see you in the next one.